What's going on, guys, and welcome to my review of A Walk Among the Tombstones. Something I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to review or not. It wasn't planned, it wasn't on my roster, it was just something that kind of popped up. I was searching Netflix and I saw that pop up. I was like, oh, I haven't watched that in 10 years, guys. True. I haven't watched this movie in the 10 years since it was released, back in 2014. And it's a film that stars Liam Neeson, which is a man I highly respect. It's an actor that I highly, deeply respect ever since his Taken days, ever since the first Taken back in 2008. As always, thank you so much, guys, for clicking here. I really do appreciate it. So in this film, you essentially have this PI, this private detective, who is hired by this drug dealer whose wife is gone missing, has been kidnapped by these two bad guys, in which the bad guys calls about a ransom, and they kill her anyway. It's basically a drama about a guy searching for these two lowlives who kidnaps these women, asks for ransom, and kills them anyway. That's basically what this is. And when I first watched this in theaters way back in 2014, I was curious. But then after I watched it, it was okay. And it really hasn't changed for me that much. And the reason why I wanted to speak up about this is because I noticed this about Liam Neeson. He's been in this shtick lately, especially very recently, a lot here recently actually, to where I really do think that this is where that shtick actually begins. Now, what I mean by that is with his Taken movies, it's more straightforward, it's more action-packed. But the material that he's been given outside of that franchise, I don't know if this is his fault or just the agency that he goes with, but it's weird. The stuff that he's been given, now I respect him as an actor. I'll always like him until the day I die. But it's just the material he's been given, it's just not that much. There's not much there outside of his Taken movies. If it's not Taken or something like that, then I don't know why that is. And I really do think that this is the movie that started that. That's the main reason why I wanted to talk about this. During the movie, I was like, halfway through it, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to talk about this on my channel. And yeah, I just have to get this out. But before I get into all that, negative stuff, let's start off with the positives for A Walk Among the Tombstones. I do got to say, Liam Neeson, like I said, I respect him as an actor. And I did like him in this part. He plays this sort of down and out guy who something really tragic happens. And the movie's 10 years old, so if I do say something about it, it's not really a spoiler, but I won't anyway. But something tragic happens at the beginning, and you find out like all the twists and turns with that later on in the film. And then he just gets reduced down to a PI, to a private detective. He goes to AA meetings. He was an alcoholic, but that tragedy that struck basically made him quit drinking, which is kind of ironic because it's usually the other way around. For those of you who've seen the movie, you know what happened. And a tragedy like that, it's usually just flipped around, but I did like his character in this. Like I said, I respect the man as an actor. I think he brings a really good performance, no matter what it is. I did like the story. I thought it was pretty intriguing where everything was falling into place once he gets hired by this drug dealer. And then you find out what these other two guys, these even more evil people, these scumbags, I gotta say, they are scumbags. After finding out what they do to these women, after asking for ransom, after they actually get the money, and then they just go ahead and kill them anyway, these hostages, and it's like, really? How low can you get? And I like the way that the story unfolded. I like the all-out dramatic side of things, like what's going to happen next and what's going to go down for certain characters in the next scene. I did like that. I did enjoy that all-out what's going to happen next. And it kind of keeps you on your toes a little bit. I do admit that I appreciated that. Now, to talk about the villains, I can't remember who the second bad guy was, but David Harbour. He's basically one of these bad guys that kidnaps these hostages and does whatever the hell he wants with them. I thought he brings a pretty cynical aspect to his character. I thought he did a really good job as the character that he played. When his name popped up on the screen when the film started, I was like, oh crap, I forgot he was in this. And then you find out he is not a good guy at all. He, like I said, he plays one of the these scumbags that just asks for ransom, and once he gets the money, he does away with him anyway. Like I said, I thought he brought a pretty cynical presence that pretty much captivated just how low this guy is and how evil he is. This guy represents everything that is wrong, that represents evil in a human being. And it's just one of those characters that, for a villainous role, for a villainous part, you gotta hate him. And for the film itself, for the type of story that this was telling, I thought it was pretty well written. And especially for this type of, magnitude of what this movie was telling. And lastly, I did like the way the last 15-20 minutes had went with that shootout in the cemetery and just the all-out tenseness, and then they moved it to that house once one of the bad guys got shot, and it's just that all-out tenseness between Liam Neeson and that secondary guy once one of the bad guys had betrayed the other. I did like the way that played out. I liked the tensity of it. I liked the all-out, just, there's almost like a horror feel to it, especially when he was trying to figure out what happened once that drug dealer was going to take care of that one guy. The all-out horror to it, I did like the way that played out. I liked the way that whole entire third act had played out, and if that had been the whole entire movie, this probably would have been a little bit higher up in film in terms of Liam Neeson films other than Taken. And now I got all that out of the way, I did find the movie enjoyable in some aspects, but in the 10 years since I last watched this thing, nothing's really changed. After the second viewing, nothing's really changed. So as I dive into my negatives, as I said before, I deeply respect Liam Neeson as an actor. I like what he brings to his characters. I think he's a cool dude. But it's just the material that he's always given, that he's always been given outside of the Taken movies. There's a trend there. And I really do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, leave me a comment down below, but I think that this is the movie where that actually started. This came out in 2014, a year before the last Taken movie, Taken 3, had come out. I really do believe that the shtick that he's been in, especially a lot heavier now since he's already done with the Taken movies, has started. Welcome in the Tombstones, I think that's where that started. As much as I enjoyed the story and for what it was telling, and the type of character that Liam Neeson played, and the type of villains that we had here, I just don't think he was given that much. 10 years has passed since his film's release. It's just been consistent all throughout most of his recent career since Taken 3. And it's just been so consistent with that it gets tiresome. And I really do think that this is what really started that stain. It's a shame because he was so awesome in the Taken movies, all 3 Taken movies, that they really could have given this man a little bit more action. Now, I don't know if that has something to do with age, but I know of some actors that were kind of the same age as Liam Neeson that still goes hard. I just don't understand why Liam Neeson is always given stuff to do to where it's really not that memorable. It just feels sluggish a lot of the time, and this was definitely no exceptions. Like I said, I really do believe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really do believe that this is where all that started, and it just set a dangerous, bad precedent to it. That's the main reason why I wanted to talk about this. Not just to crap on the movie. Like I said, I did find some aspects to this thing that I enjoyed, and maybe a little more than what I did before when I watched this thing in theaters 10 years ago. Because over time, you get to appreciate stuff that you definitely would have gotten more hardcore negative on it the first time, and that's how I felt the first time. But some aspects of it I did enjoy, but most of it has not really changed. It's not something that I would ever watch again, and it's just one of those that it's not that memorable. It's just one of those that just felt a little sluggish, and I felt like more could have been added to it. They could have had him do a lot more instead of just him running around and trying to figure shit out. Again, I know that's not the kind of movie that the filmmakers was intending, but since this film's release, that has become a really bad trend, and I really do believe that this is the film that started that bad precedent. But in the end, guys, this film, it was okay. If you'd have asked me 10 years ago what I would have rated this thing, I would have said a swing and a miss. I wouldn't have given it a second thought. But over time, 10 years, I actually did appreciate certain aspects of this film. This isn't the lowest that I have seen. This isn't the worst that I've seen. But it isn't the greatest. It isn't something that I can recommend to anybody. But if I'm being honest here, I'm on the fence. And trust me, for something of this magnitude, that's kind of being generous. So, Walk Among the Tombstones. What was your thoughts on it? Have you seen it yet? It's been 10 years. You're bound to. What was your thoughts on it? Were you a fan of this? Was this your favorite Liam Neeson film? Was this something of his that you could definitely get behind? Or are you one of those that, like me, sees the shtick that, Liam Neeson has been in recent years? Do you believe that this was the one that started that? Was this really not for you? Leave me a comment down below and give me your thoughts. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this. I really do appreciate it. Like, subscribe, comment, and share. Make sure to click that bell icon as always so you don't miss a thing. And I will see you on the next one. Peace.